Peace be upon you. This is Said Mirza from MillionaireReason.com, and in today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about what the Qur'an has to say about Salat. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at this article. It's written by Joseph Islam. It's called "What is Salat? Prayer from the Qur'an." And in this article, what he's making the case is that the Quran is giving us the format of the Salat, which is actually the same as what the Muslims are doing. This is really the crux of the argument. And I've seen a lot of people who follow the Quran alone take this line where they are trying to justify their inherited rituals by using the Quran. And really what it boils down to is that they are taking the Quranic verses out of context and already assuming the meanings of certain words. For example, sajda, which they say it means prostration, putting your forehead on the ground, and ruku, which they say means to bow down. And all of this is happening while facing the direction of the Kaaba, which if you are following my channel or you're following Brother Gerrans' work, you know that this is an idol. And that's all it is, the Kaaba. So that begs the question, why would you face an idol while performing prayer to God? But anyway, that's besides the point. What I wanted to do here is, instead of giving people the exact format which everyone seems to be after, but the Quran itself is not giving you a very specific format as the traditionalist is giving you, which is what the Muslims, they're always so happy because they say, look, we know how to pray, exactly how to pray. Our hadith or sunnah or the consensus that we have tells us exactly how to pray. So that's what you are deficient when you follow the Quran alone. Well, we take the Quran for what it says, claims to be, that it is preserved, it's from God, and it's complete and fully detailed, and it's clear. So if the Quran is giving us guidance on certain matters, we take that, and for the other matters, we use our intellect, our reason, our mind to make your independent choices. But obviously the religionists are devoid of any sort of critical thinking, and they want to actually be robots. They want to have someone tell them step by step, detailed, what needs to be done and when it needs to be done and how it needs to be done, and this is the way they function. So it's very difficult to get them to understand that a lot of these topics like salat, prayer, fasting, zakat, these are more general terms that are open to leeway. They are open for interpretation. You do what is best. But I think this claim, this is the nefarious claim that is made by a lot of Quran alone Muslims, that the Quran somehow confirms or justifies the inherited rituals which they are performing, especially the salat and also the worshipping of a stone idol in Makkah, the Kaaba, the circumambulation of that 7 times, that is somehow justified in the Quran. And so what I wanted to do is go over his article, the citations he makes using the Quran, and show you that the Quran is actually not talking about, at least the Quran is not confirming the rituals that Muslims are performing. It's not. And then it's up to you to look in the Quran to see how to perform the salat. The Quran does give us guidance on that matter. There are certain times and that there needs to be prerequisites, as in you have to wash yourself, and there should be a purpose behind your salat, behind your prayer, and also the format. There are glimpses in there, but I am not going to tell you what those are, and the reason is that I don't want to spoon feed people. I think we've had enough of that. You need to yourself look in the Quran and really trust in God to explain it to you, and God willing, He will open up the path for you, and He will show you what the prayer is, and again, it's up to you, your best decisions. So now I am not going to be going over every specific detail of what he's doing here, justifying everything. I'm going to kind of give you the broad general guidelines just to show you that this claim made by the Quran alone Muslims, who are actually cultural Muslims, who are saying that they deny the hadith and they deny the sunnah, but in practice they're still following the forefathers. They're performing the salat as they were taught by their forefathers, and they're going and doing a hajj, which is basically idol worship, to Makkah, Saudi Saudi Arabia, which was taught to them by their forefathers, and then coming around and saying, look, the Quran says this. We deny the hadith, we deny the sunnah, but we follow the Quran alone. Well, you're not really following the Quran alone, because all you're doing is you're still following the practices of your ancestors blindly, and you're saying that the Quran justifies it. What's really required is that we abandon the rituals and the practices and the dogma and the thinking of our ancestors who were misguided, who did not know any better, and actually come to the Quran as students, as someone who is ignorant and who is seeking knowledge. And so this is the way to approach the Quran, to already put in the Quran, to approach it with the understanding, with the attitude that we already know what these words mean, or we already know how to do this, and then trying to force the Quran to fit that narrative, when this unfortunately is not being sincere with God or with the Quran itself. So I think that's enough of a lecture. Let's move on to the article itself. As I mentioned, it's written by Joseph Islam. I'll put a link in the drop down box below. You're free to read the whole article. I'm just going to concentrate on the verses that he brings forward to make the claim that the Quran is supporting or confirming or legitimizing the Muslim ritual prayer, when it does not do that. So the first one is, the point that he makes is that Salat involves prostration, sujood. Now, just to back up here, this is Brother Gerrans' work. I give credit where credit is due, and he's the one who, after analyzing the word salat in the Quran across the whole of the Quran, came to the understanding that the word salat simply means duty. What is a duty? A duty is something that is you have to do, right? And so a duty of a believer is worship of God, yes, but there are other duties of the believer as well, as in reading the Quran, speaking kindly to mankind, feeding the needy, exhorting men, fighting in the cause of God. These are all duties. These are all salats. This is really what the core of the understanding of the word salat is. It's a general term. Now, obviously, prayer, which Muslims are focused on, which is worship of God, that is a salat that is incumbent upon a believer, no doubt about it. And there is a specific time that needs to be done with a specific intention. But to say that all salat, that this is the word salat just means prayer, is again not being sincere with the Quranic text and not looking at the different variations of how this word is used. If you want more information on that, then I will put a link in the drop down box below to an article written by Sam Gerrans on this issue. I made previous videos on this salat as well, which I'll try to find and link. This really is not up for debate. This is how the word salat is used in the Quran. You can do the spade work and you'll find that this is how the word salat is used. It does not mean specifically prayer. So this is the first thing. This is the first assumption that Muslims bring in when we use the word salat. They get triggered into thinking it means prayer alone, when it's actually other things as well. But coming back to the point here, the way this gentleman is using the word salat, he already assumes that it means prayer. So I'm going to be obviously kind of reading off of what he's saying. So just understand that when he's using the word salat, he means prayer specifically, whereas in the Quran, the word salat can mean other things as well, not just prayer. So the first one is that salat involves prostration, sujood. So the first mistake he makes, actually the first mistake he made was he assumed that salat means duty, salat means prayer. The second mistake he is making is that he is taking the word sujood to mean prostration. Like I said, the word sujood, if you look in the Quran, all the context, all the verses where this word is used, and by the way, the website I'm going to be using to look up these verses is reader.quranic.com, which I think is a great tool that not only gives you Brother Gerrans translations, there are other translations you can look up there, so it's not just biased towards Brother Gerrans translation, but obviously I do respect the work he has done. He's put in the work, and his translation is a very literal translation. It's very good, so that's part of the reason why this website was built with that in mind. But also what you can do in this website is you can do an Arabic analysis, and if you can read Arabic, you can actually look at the root of a word or the form of the word where across the whole of the Quran. This is called textual analysis, and in this way you can figure out the meaning of a word as it's used in the Quran. You don't even have to go to dictionaries. So if you were to look at the word sujood in the Quran, you will quickly see that this word is not used to mean a physical prostration. It does not. And just to give you one instance of it, it says وَالنَّجْمُ وَالشَّجَرُ يَسْجُدَانِ, which means the star and the tree yasjudan, they submit. It's not they prostrate, they submit. The word sujood is there. Yasjudan means they do sujood, which is, Muslims take it to mean prostration when it is clear that this cannot happen. What's being talked about is that they are following the commandments of God. This is submission, right? This is the sujood. So when he says, Joseph Islam here says salat involves prostration, he's already making this assumption that word sujood means prostration, when it doesn't mean that. So let's look at chapter 4 verse 102, which he brings forward for this claim. I'll pull it up here on Reader. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so the context is that this is a prayer that is to be performed at the battlefield. So I'm just going to read the whole verse to you. And when thou art among them, uphold thou the duty for them. Then let there stand a number of them with thee, and let them take their arms. Then when they have submitted, let them be behind you, and let another number come that has not performed the duty, and let them perform the duty with thee, and let them take their precautions and their arms. Those who ignore warning wish that you would neglect your arms and your equipment, so they might assault you in a single assault. But you do no wrong if there is a hindrance to you from rain, or you are sick, then that you lay aside your arms. But take your precautions. God has prepared for the false claimers of guidance a humiliating punishment. So this is the verse that he brings forward to claim that sujood means prostration, whereas here it clearly means to submit. The Quranic verses were being recited to them in the prayer, in the salat, in the duty, which was to be, like I said, it has to be held a certain time. So if they are in a battlefield, if they are in the grips of war, the believers, the messenger was supposed to uphold the duty with them, to lead the duty, to lead the prayer, and he was supposed to recite the verses of the Qur'an, and the believers were then, when they submitted, they accepted, they felt, it came down their hearts. Talks about, that God sends down the sakina, the strengthening, if you want to use that word, the security. So this is what it is, submission. By the way, if you just think about this a little bit logically, just use your brain. You know that even now, when you're going in a battlefield, in a war, you are wearing armor, you are wearing a helmet. It says to take your arms with you when you are performing the prayer, performing the duty. And so you have a sharp piece of a blade with you, and you have a shield. How exactly are you going to perform the Muslim ritual prayer when you are, dressed up in all this armor and you have weapons with you? Think about that. Is that possible? Can you actually do a physical prostration when you have a sword hanging? Even though if it's in a scabbard, you have the shield with you. You really have to start using your brain. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they just kind of have this sort of idea, we're in the midst of battle here. Okay, so the next one, so how do I refute this? How do you refute this? You basically look at the word sajadu, which he is saying prostrated. You look in the Quran for other places. Like I said, you have that capability now with Reader. Look it up. Look at this word, where else it occurs in the Quran, and you will see that it does not mean physical prostration during prayer. It does not. It doesn't. There's many other instances of this. Word. Point 2. Salat has been prescribed at specific times. That is correct. It is prescribed at specific times. And he gives one verse here, chapter 4, verse 103. I'm going to pull that up. And when you have concluded the duty, remember God standing and sitting and upon your sides. And when you are at ease, but uphold the duty. The duty is upon the believers, a time-limited writ. Yeah, I agree. Okay, and let's look at another one. Okay, this is point 3. The Quran's allusion to salat at prescribed times. So this is kind of the same point as the second point. So I'll look up his verses anyway that he brings. He says, Okay, chapter 11, verse 114 is the one he first shows. Okay, so here it says, and uphold thou the duty at the two ends of the day, and at an approach of the night. Good deeds take away evil deeds. That is a reminder for those who remember. I agree. And so the salat, the prayer, this specific type of salat, the prayer is to be performed at the two ends of the day, sunrise, sunset, and at the approach of the night. So later in the night. He's given other verses too. I already said I agree with him. You can read the article and look at all the other verses. I'm trying to make this short, the video. Okay, so the next one he looks at is point 4 is there is more than one salat. The plural salawat is used. And here he's bringing chapter 2, verse 238. So let's look at this one. Okay. Preserve the duties and the median duty and stand up for God humbly obedient. And I'll read the next verse too. It says, and if you fear, then walking or riding, but when you are secure, then remember God as he taught you what you knew not. Okay, so this is interesting. So preserve the duties. Hafizu ala salawati. This is the plural. Salat is singular. Salawat is plural. As I mentioned, the word salat in the Quran just means duty. There's one duty, which is prayer. There are other duties. Upholding the commandments of God is a duty upon the believer. Fighting for the cause of God is a duty upon the believer. Feeding the needy is a duty. So these are all duties, right? So here it's saying preserve the duties, because if you just look, you have to read it in context, right? This is important. If you just look at the verse above that, verse 237 is talking about divorce, and it's giving you, the guidelines for divorce. If you divorce them before you have touched them, then you have already appointed for them an obligation, then half of what you appointed. So it's talking about the meher, how do you deal with that? So this is really what it is. It's talking about preserving the duties, as in, the duties that are incumbent upon you, and the median duty. Now, here he's saying middle, right? He's saying that the translation he's using it says middle. But, he says especially the middle prayer. Okay. Middle prayer, that's his understanding. Middle in Arabic, the word is used wasta, which if you look again, you have to do the work, you have to do the legwork, you have to go and look at these. If you actually want to know, if you want to be certain, you have to do the legwork, right? So if you go in the Quran and look at this word wasta and see how it's used in the Quran, you will see that it doesn't just mean middle, it can mean the best, or goodly, or the most level-headed. Is used in one place in the Quran. It's talking about sort of like the best, So obviously now it's saying, and the Salatul Wusta, which is now here it's referring to the prayer. This is what it's doing. So, and then it's saying, and stand up for God, humbly obedient. And here you are seeing a glimpse of what I was talking about, the format. See, it says, and stand up for God. Stand up for God. Okay? I would also suggest that wherever this word occurs, salat, look up all the verses. It'll take you a day. But at least you have something. You won't be lured by these people who are coming in and saying, okay, this is what it means, and they're taking verses out of context. So so there are multiple salats, which there are multiple duties, and there's also us in that context he is correct that there's more than one salat, but what he's not understanding is that salat just means duty. So there are more than one duties. There's one duty of prayer, and that has certain times too that it needs to be performed. Okay, next one. Point 5. Purification must be action before establishing salat. So here he's talking about the ablution, the wudu. Yes, the Quran gives us the how to do the wudu. Look, God can be specific when he wants to be specific, or he can be general when he wants to be general, right? This is really all it is. So, this claim that the prayer is not specifically defined in the Quran, if God had wished to, he would have done it. He didn't. Okay, so it's left up to you. Because in the purification, the ablution, the Quran is very specific on what you need to do. And by the way, here too, the ablution performed by the Muslims is not how God is commanding them to perform it. And then if you point that out, they'll say, well, what's the hurt? Because they're not willing to abandon what they've been taught by their ancestors. That's all it is. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is all there is to it. This is all there is to it. This is the mindset. Very difficult to talk to them about following the Quran alone because they don't want to. Okay, so I'm going to read to you this verse, chapter 5, verse 6. O you who heed warning, when you rise up for the duty, when you rise up for, we can substitute prayer here because it's talking specifically about that duty, that one type of duty. Wash your faces and your hands to the elbows, and wipe your heads and your feet to the ankles. And if you are unclean, purify yourselves. And if you were ill or on a journey, or one of you come from the privy, bathroom, or you have lain with women, then find not water, resort to clean soil and wipe your faces and your hands with it. God wishes not to place any distress upon you, but he wishes to purify you and to complete his favor upon you, that you might be grateful. So, you need to wash your faces and your hands to the elbows, and wipe your heads and your feet to the ankles. This is it. The way Muslims do this, everything is done 3 times. I come from a Muslim family. I've done this for a better part of my life, okay? And they put the water up their nose, and it says here to wipe your heads. They don't wipe their heads. They put the water on top of their head. They take like a handful of water and throw it on their head. What else? Everything is done 3 times. I'm sure there's variations to this as well, depending on the sect you belong to. What I'm trying to get at is it's straightforward what it is in the Quran. And God is giving you the guideline here. Very detailed, by the way. But not going to do that. Gonna stick with what we know, what we've inherited. Okay, point 6. Where do these marks of prostration come from? Now, this one is actually funny, and I've heard this all my life because I lived in Pakistan. I grew up in Pakistan, and a lot of people they have this black thing here on their forehead, and this happens because if you basically rub your head on the ground, 5 times a day or 10 times a day or 50 times a day or whatever, how many times they do it. And you make an effort to really rub your head on the ground, you're going to start developing this black mark here. Now, this is what Joseph Islam is saying, that the marks of prostration that God is referring to in the Quran, and it does refer to the marks of the sujood, not prostration, sujood, come from. This is where they come from. So we're gonna look at this one. This is I've heard this all my life, and I actually investigated this quite a bit too. So let's see. Here it says, chapter 48, verse 29. Muhammad is the messenger of God, and those with him are hard against the atheists, merciful among themselves. Thou seest them lowly in submission, seeking favor from God and approval. Their mark on their faces of the effects of the submission, that is their likeness in the Torah. And their likeness in the gospel is like a seed that put forth its shoot and strengthens it and establishes itself upon its stem, pleasing the sowers, that by them he might enrage the atheists. God has promised those who heed warning and do righteous deeds among them forgiveness and a great reward. Okay, so here we have the mark on their faces of the effects of the submission, which Joseph Islam and other Muslims are claiming to mean that this is that black mark that happens when you do enough prostrations. But what everyone fails to look at or point out is that this is talking about the children of Israel, or the people who call themselves the descendants, the Jews, that is talking about them. So because it says that that is their likeness in the Torah, right? Now, Jews don't rub their forehead on the ground. Okay, look up a Jewish prayer. They don't do that. So what is this talking about? Again, if you take the word sajud, and you make it into a specific, rubbing your forehead on the ground, then you have to somehow come up with some answer to this. But if you understand that it just means submission in a general form, so then you see what it's talking about, that they are humble, they're devoutly committed to the cause of God. And again, this is a military context, by the way, because it says that he might enrage the atheists by them. See, if you read the verses before this, it's talking about, let's just look at it. Verse 27, God has confirmed the vision to his messenger in truth. You will enter the inviolable place of worship if God wills, secure, shaven-headed, and cut, not fearing. And he knew what you knew not, and he appointed besides that a near victory. And then verse 28, he it is that sent his messenger with the guidance and the doctrine of truth, that he might make it manifest over all doctrine, and sufficient is God as witness. So this is talking about a military exercise, and God appointed near victory. So in that context, is talking about the mark of submission, nothing to do with the prayer. Read it again, read this verse again. Go look it up. This is, unfortunately, people, they just want everything spoon-fed. They don't want to actually do the work. Then you're not being sincere. Okay, next one. Now, this is an interesting claim too. Point 7. There is a direction for Qibla. Okay, again, if you take words from the Qur'an and you give them these random, well, not random, actually, they're very specific definitions which you need in order to construct a false religion, then obviously people who are going to be reading it, they're going to be confused and misled. But if you actually do the legwork and try to find out the meanings of these words, not some wishy-washy understanding, but actually concrete meanings of these words, you will quickly see that the word Qibla, which he is assuming to mean a direction of prayer, it's not a direction for prayer at all. Qibla means a destination. It means a focus, okay, something that you are striving towards. And I'll show it to you. And this one I'll kind of go over a little bit more, because once you understand this, that the word Qibla has been changed deliberately to misguide men and to make them worship a stone idol in Makkah, which is what's happening, then you will quickly see that this whole religion is just it's a farce. Okay, chapter 2, verse 144. This is what he brings forward as a claim, that you are to face the Makkah, the Kaaba in Makkah, Saudi Arabia, when you are performing the Salat. Okay, we have seen the turning of thy face towards the sky, and we will turn thee towards a course that will satisfy thee. So direct thou thy face towards the inviolable place of worship, and wheresoever you be, direct your faces towards it. And those given of the writ know that it is the truth from their Lord, and God is not unmindful of what they do. Okay, I'm looking in the Arabic to see where. Okay, so here you go. It says, فَلَنُوَلِّينَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. Okay, Qibla, the word Qibla is used, and it says, okay, so the word Qibla is used here, okay, and Joseph Islam is claiming that the word Qibla, because he coming with the assumption that Qibla means a direction of prayer. He's saying, look, it's saying that God is commanding Muhammad to turn his face in the direction of Masjid al-Haram, which is the masjid in Makkah where the Kaaba is housed. Okay, where does it use the word Salat here? Where does it say? Where does it use the word Salat? There's nothing about Salat here. If you read these verses, read on from the preceding verses to the later verses, you will see it's nothing to do with Salat. Nothing. It's nothing to do with prayer. See, this is the kind of taking stuff out of context and then saying, look, this is what God commanded. And by the way, this word Qibla, I'm just using the feature here on the website. If you look at the form, base form, there's 5 verses that use this word Qibla. Okay, and You can go through these verses at your leisure. I'm just going to give you one verse, which if it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. Chapter 10, verse 87. And we instructed Moses and his brother, settle your people in Egypt in houses, and make your houses a destination, and uphold the duty, and bear thou glad tidings to the believers. Make your houses a destination. Qibla. The word is Qibla. Okay? And Brother Gerrans here is translating it correctly as destination. It's a point. It's a focus. This is what Prophet Muhammad was told, that you need to go to Masjid al-Haram. Okay? Make this your focus of your missionary work. Go there. Okay? This is what it's talking about. Same thing here. Moses was instructed, make your houses a destination, as safe houses, as places of refuge. All of you believers, settle there. And I'm going to look at other translations here too. But I'm going to look at Hilali and Khan. This is the standards Saudi Sunni translation. And we inspired Musa and his brother, take dwellings for your people in Egypt, and make your dwellings as places for your worship, and perform a salat, and give glad tidings to the believers. So now he's translating here. They're saying, make your dwellings as places for your worship. The Arabic doesn't say anything about places of your worship. It just says that make your dwellings qibla, and perform a salat. Okay, now he's giving you that hint that it's talking about. But here's the problem. The word qibla means a direction for prayer. This is the traditionalist understanding, right? And so if this is a direction for prayer, how can multiple houses be directions of prayers? There can only be one house as the prayer focus, right? Isn't this the claim of the Muslims, that the ummah is united because we all have the same qibla? Okay. You see, this is the kind of games that are being played with the Qur'an. Okay, the next one, verse point 8. Use a moderate tone in salat. And he brings forward chapter 17, verse 110. Okay, I agree with him. Next one, salat involves utterance. Okay, chapter 4, verse 43. Okay, so this is talking about that you shouldn't approach the salat, and specifically the prayer when you're intoxicated, and that you understand all that you say. Yeah, I agree with him. Next one. Okay, this point 10. There is a general form to prayer, and he brings forward chapter 2, verse 238 to 39. Let's see. Okay, this is the same one. We already went over this, but I'll go over it again. Verse 238 and 239. Preserve the duties and the meeting duty, and stand up for God humbly obedient. And if you fear, then walking or riding. But when you are secure, then remember God as he taught you what you knew not. Okay, yeah, there's a specific form in the sense that you shouldn't be doing it lying down. Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, the Quran talks about stand up for God. So yeah, you have to stand up. And this is, again, the traditionalists will start arguing with you on if you're supposed to stand up on 1 foot or 2 feet, or you're supposed to lean on something, because this is really this is sort of the mindset that you deal with religionists. They want everything in black and white, and they want details, and the more details they want. Never an end to this. Okay, I think he has. Okay, next one is point 11, call for prayer and congregation. So now he's talking about this congregational prayer, that this is commanded. This is chapter 62, verse 9. Let's look at this one. Okay, O you who heed warning, when the call is heard for the duty of the day of assembly, then hasten to the remembrance of God, and leave commerce. That is better for you if you but knew. And the next verse is, and when the duty is concluded, disperse in the land and seek of the bounty of God, and remember God much, that you might be successful. Yeah, so there is at the it says Yawmil Juma, which Muslims say the Juma prayer, the Friday prayer. The Juma, the word Juma just means, a congregation, assembly. Obviously, at that time, they were believers around the messenger, and they were told to uphold the duty, and so they did this in a communal manner. The day and age we live in, unfortunately, very difficult to find believers. You can go in the mosque and do all that with the Muslims, but I have a problem with facing the direction of a stone idol, and obviously the Muslims will never be okay with you facing another direction, or they themselves will never face it, because the idol is, in their hearts. So let them do what they want to do, and we do what we are commanded to do. Really, that's what it is. Okay. Next one is Salat. This is point 12. Salat and Dhikr are not necessarily the same practice. And this is just splitting hairs. Obviously, in Salat, you are glorifying God, you're remembering God. Again, this is something that there really is no point in debating about this. It's up to your interpretation. Point 13, hypocrites and prayer. Okay, let's look at this one. This is chapter 4, verse 142. Okay. The waverers seek to deceive God, but he is deceiving them. And when they rise up for the duty, they rise up to be seen of men, and remember not God save a little, wavering in between, neither to these nor to those. And he whom God causes to go astray, thou wilt not find for him a path. Yeah, so they were to rise up for the duty, and they were just doing it to show people. So I'm not sure what his point is here. Let's go back. I don't know what his point is. Hypocrites and prayer. I guess he's trying to say that the hypocrites also perform the prayer. Yeah, the Al-Kafirun perform the prayer too. Okay, last one. Point 14. Do not abandon Salat as did the people before. Chapter 19, verse 58. Let's look at this one. Those are they whom God favored among the prophets of the progeny of Adam, and of those we bore with Noah, and of the progeny of Abraham and Israel, and of those we guided and chose. When the proofs of the Almighty were recited to them, they fell down in submission, weeping. But there succeeded them successors who caused the duty to be lost, and followed lusts. They will meet with error. So if you want to take the traditional understanding, then the translation would be that, when the proofs of the Almighty were recited to them, they fell down in prostration, weeping. And then after that, there succeeded them successors who caused the Salat to be lost. So they did not perform the Salat. But I agree, the Salat, if not the Salat in the sense that the Muslims perform, the Salat in the sense that the Qur'an is talking about, the specific type of Salat prayer, yes, that is lost. And that's really the core point. This verse only confirms what I'm saying. It's not confirming Joseph Islam's point of view or the traditionalist Muslims' point of view. It's just confirming the believer's point of view that yes, they have lost the prayer, the true Salat, the true type of Salat in the Quran, which is remembrance of God, which is devotion to God, which is worship of God in the truest sense of the word. Yeah, they're doing the actions, but are they really committing themselves to the remembrance of God? I want to reiterate here that it's not that I'm bashing the Muslims or anything. I just have a big problem with people who are somehow saying that the Quran is incomplete and not detailed when the Quran says it is. And I also have a problem with people trying to shoehorn their idolatrous practices or the rituals they inherited from their ancestors, whether they be idol worship or not, regardless, and then trying to somehow force them into the in the Quranic text to confirm their beliefs. That's what I have a problem with. And in that regard, I was born and raised in a Sunni Muslim household in Pakistan, and for 20-25 years, yeah, I was a Muslim myself, in the sense of a Sunni Muslim. I was not a submitter to God. I was a Muslim, as in a cultural Muslim, and I used to pray how the traditionalists prays too. And I can tell you that most of the time my prayer was, I said in the Quran that the Salat is clapping. And my salat was also just show. I didn't really care for understanding what the purpose was. It was just something to get over with, during the commercial breaks. I'm just being honest with you, okay? This is what it is. Okay, so the point he's making here: do not abandon salat as did the people before. Yeah, well, the salat has been abandoned, because the Quran is a remembrance of the ancients. It gives you the examples of the ancients. They abandoned the salat, and you abandon the salat. That's the Quran's words coming true. And they abandoned the reading of the scripture and holding fast to the book of God, just as you have abandoned reading the scripture and holding fast to the book of God. By the way, if you remember, the children of Israel, one of the commandments was to hold fast to what we have given you. And you know that on the day of judgment, the Quran is itself testifying that that Muhammad will not say that my people abandoned my sunnah. What he will say is that they abandoned the Quran mahjuran, which means to desert or to take as nothing. So this is the Quran. This is the testimony of the messenger who Muslims claim will intercede for them on the day of judgment, and that should give us pause to think. Anyway, I think the video is long enough as it is. I hope that clarifies your understanding of the prayer in the Quran. I'm not going to spoon feed the relevant verses and also the format. Everything is in the Quran. You just have to be honest with it, sincere with it, approach it with an inquisitive mind, and be a real true student of the Quran, and understand that you know nothing, you're ignorant, and approach the Quran with that perspective to gain knowledge. And God willing, if he decides, he will explain it to you. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.